there's some parts that even I reread now, a little clunky here, like I can self-critique. We all say that we're our harshest critic, and that applies to me as well. And so I saw that, and then when I went into book two, I went in with all of this knowledge now, like just predated. And so it was easier to write book two. It was way more fun.
We'll talk about this and much more today. Welcome to a Writer's Day podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to Writer's Day. I'm so excited to have you here because I started this podcast for you, people who want to learn more about the writing craft and listen to award-winning best-selling authors talk about their books and their writing journeys. Why? Because it's so inspirational. They overcame obstacles to get to their goal, which was to be published. And so I hope that their encouraging stories rubs off on you and motivates you to keep going. And I thank you for listening. So if you like today's episode, head over to YouTube and subscribe, follow me on Spotify, and leave me a review. I'd love to know what you think of today's episode. And head over to my website, of course, artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter and get a free downloadable copy of A Christmas Scene. That's right. I'm releasing a short story, Christmas story, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It'll give you a sampling of my writing to get you ready for Murder at Christmas Tree Village. My novella, Cozy Mystery Christmas Story, comes out December 2nd. And so head over to artbyruth.com to sign up for my newsletter and to learn more about when Murder at Christmas Tree Village releases, as well as learn more about my upcoming projects too. Okay, let's get started. JF Monroe. She creates stories that reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we are never truly alone. I love that. So she is a fantasy author who is here with me today to talk about her Legacy of the Four trilogy. So you know the drill. Grab your favorite beverage, a comfortable chair, kick back and relax as we listen to JF Monroe talk about her books. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to be talking with author JF Monroe. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course. I always like to meet authors. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I am JF Monroe, and that is a pen name. It's not my real name. I am the author of the legendary Guardian Street Unions. It is the first book in a fantasy romance trilogy that mixes adventure and mythology and all of these really like fun, messy, deeply human emotions that make these stories stick with you. Most recently in July, I released the second book called Descent into the Void Heart, which continues the journey for our main characters. What I love to talk about most aspects of my book, but it has gods and angels and demons and epic battles, all that make it really great for fantasy, but at the heart of it all, it really explores themes of like identity, choice, love, and resilience. When I am not being JF Monroe, I am a born and raised New Yorker. I love hanging out with my husband and our 7-year-old son. We have a actually recently he's blind and deaf. He's my little senior dog. And then we have a new German Shepherd puppy. So it's been a fun ride so far. I spend way too much time playing video games, binge watching movies, reading, and just fueling it all with an unreasonable amount of coffee.
I'm right there with you. Wow, coffee, yes. Wow, so born and raised New York City, downtown New York, or?
I grew up in the Bronx, and
Okay.
right now I am in Westchester.
Oh, very nice. Okay, I've been there just a couple of times, did the tourist thing.
Nice, nice. Yes, you probably hit up Manhattan, and that's an amazing time. Like that has Broadway, and just like it's a melting pot of wonderful things you can experience. So.
Yes, and I definitely want to go back because it was cold and rainy, so we didn't get to do Central Park. So I've got to go back and do Central Park. Would you recommend in the fall or the summer?
Oh gosh, the fall. The
Mm.
foliage is just beautiful. And if you do make your way up to the Bronx, the New York Botanical Garden is absolutely stunning at that time of year. So I'd recommend it.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to convince my husband to go on one of those fall foliage tours of New
Yes.
England, and then we'll come down and do Central Park. Woohoo!
Perfect.
Fantastic. Well, did you have a sense that you would always be a writer? I mean, when you're little, did it start then?
Yes. So I grew up just absolutely loving to write. I realized very early on that my writing was a really great way for me to express my thoughts and opinions.
Mhm.
Whereas verbally, I could probably use a little bit of work. And so I'd find myself, filling up journals really quick. Throughout school, I would take all the writing courses I possibly could. I was a major in creative writing with a minor in classics. I explored theater, anything that just kind of kept me immersed in many different things. And a way to express myself was through that type of writing. Fiction was how I always, expressed myself. I would just write stories of other individuals. I'm not actually good at writing stories about myself. Um, so I would just do that. It would be small pieces. But as I got older and started dabbling in it a little bit more, I checked out the fan fiction, I would do blogs, and then I had decided during maternity leave with my son that I was going to write a screenplay about the Four Horsemen mythology. It had come to me when I was on maternity leave. I had seen a TV show about them, and I was like very interested from the start about the Four Horsemen. And I don't remember like a lot growing up, like knowing about them. And so I started to research and look into it, and I was like, let's do it. I'm going to write a screenplay. It's going to be epic, brutal trials, clashes between angels and demons. However, my characters refused to fit into a 90-page script. And so before I knew it, I had a full-fledged novel, and now it is the first and second of a three-part series. So it's been a really wild journey, but a real fun one.
Oh, that's great. Did you find that you were writing this for your son or just for you?
This was something that was entirely for me.
Mm.
I had never done something of this caliber before. Like I said, I was just playing around with fan fiction and blogs and, short pieces, but I've never really like published or submitted anything before. And here I was writing this novel and thinking to myself, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to publish it. And so we were in uncharted territory at that point. Was a learning experience. I learned as I went, which is I think the best way to go. And yeah, no regrets. I had an absolute blast doing it, but it was completely 100% for me.
Well, so what drew you to the fantasy genre of all the genres? Why did you want to start off with fantasy?
I read a lot. And so I actually, for my reading preferences, I actually lean a little more towards horror, which is a fun fact. And so I don't know. It's just anything that can kind of get me out of real world, ongoings. And so I try to find like that escapism, and I find that escapism in like horror and fantasy. I'll
Mm.
read thriller. I love a good mystery. Fiction is where I usually sit, but horror and fantasy do exactly what I need it to do in terms of like I just kind of get to escape a little bit. And so when I was reading fantasy, and I got the appeal of the Four Horsemen mythology. It just kind of fell that way. Yes, I could have probably written a horror story about the Four Horsemen, but the way the narrative was playing out in my head, the way I wanted to write it, just very much leaned more towards the fantasy elements.
Okay, that's kind of why I chose fantasy as well. So book one, The Legendary Guardians, after you finished that book and you learned all the lessons that writers learned when slaving through and finally typing the end, what were some of the challenges you overcame to start book two in the series?
It's such a great question. And I try to be so incredibly transparent about this because you can actually, if you read my book, my first book versus my second book, you can actually see the difference. Like you can read the difference in both of them. And I am very, very proud of that, even though not a lot of people would want to admit something like that.
Sure.
Um, my first book was my entire learning experience. From the second I wrote the first page, that's where I learned formatting, editing, reading, tips like reading your stuff out loud. It's where I learned that, you have to market your book after you publish it. I learned every single thing from that first book, including how to even write better for the second. And so
Mhm.
when you read the first one, I'm so proud of it because it sets the stage for my story. And you can see, okay, this is a new, this is an indie author, this is a new writer. She's starting out, she's creating something. I see it, I like it. But there's some parts that even I reread now. I could have done that better. A little clunky here, like I can self-critique. We all say that we're our harshest critic, and that applies to me as well. And so I saw that. And then when I went into book two, I went in with all of this knowledge now, like just predated. And so it was easier to write book two. It was way more fun. Book two, just so you know, it was my favorite book to write. And you can see the flow of the dialogue, the flow of the entire narrative is just easier. It's just
Mm.
better. It's just has this natural like, okay, this is where the meat and potatoes of the journey is coming in, and here's where the character development starts. And it's just you can feel the fun and the chaos of the story that I started chasing. Like when I was doing book one, I hadn't even figured out the ending. And a lot of authors will tell you, like, you have to know the ending of your story before you start telling it. And I did not know that. Like, I was still just kind of going and seeing where it went. And then by book two, I had the ending in sight. And so it just flows so much more naturally.
Well, yeah,
And
I
it was
mean,
awesome.
yeah, you're being perfectly honest, and I'm right there with you. Me too. I mean, I wrote my book completely on the fly, the first book, and luckily had a fantastic editor who showed me how to make it better. And so by book two, definitely I'd improved as well. So, yeah, I mean, most of us are right there with you. It happened with us too. Well, let's talk about your books. Tell us about book one, The Legendary Guardians, and then we'll talk about book two, Descent into the Void Heart.
Sure. So book one is what you need to know about it is humans, angels, and demons exist under this peace treaty held together by the four horsemen, who are these legendary guardians that are tasked with protecting the humans from destruction. So think of it as like, angels are angels and demons are demons, and they all have their supernatural gifts. And then you have humans who don't really have anyone to defend them. And so enter the four horsemen, who are these guardians that do that. One of my main characters, her name is Shade. She is kind of forced back into this world that she had tried to leave behind when her best friend, my next main character, Theo, returns after 10 years. Only now he is the human vessel for the horseman death. He is carrying a ridiculous amount of power, and he takes her with him on this journey to reunite the other horsemen and, of course, stop this looming threat. And Shade's dog tags along for the ride because who does not want a loving, loyal dog companion? If I could
Yeah.
throw it in everything that I write, I would. And
I
then
know.
Descent into the Void Heart is a continuation of that. So by the end of book one, the horsemen are reunited. The threat is semi-revealed. And then going into book two is them traveling to the Void Heart, as in the title, Descent into the Void Heart. That is the home of the demons. And what they are actually doing, and this is not spoilers, this is on the back of the book, is looking for allies in their fight against, the looming threat that they discover. And so the Void
Oh,
Heart is their first stop. And like I said, the second book is the absolute meat and potatoes of the journey. That's when almost everything happens. And book three is not out yet, but it will be about the climax of what happens in book two, the journey.
okay. So in book one, it says she has to reunite the four horsemen. What separated them?
So that's the big thing. So when the horsemen pick the four human vessels, they go away.
Oh,
What you learn is that they go away to this place to train. It is called the Ethereal Valley. It is kind of like the land in between the living and the dead. It kind of just fits into that. Um, it goes in a little. I go into an obviously more solid explanation in the book, but that's what it is. And so when they leave, you're not supposed to see them again. And so when Theo returns after 10 years, they're he doesn't understand what's going on because in his mind he was not supposed to return to, the humans. He was not supposed to see shade again. This was going to be his life until whatever happened and the horsemen chose new vessels. But now he's here and he's separated from the other three, and they have to figure out why. And that is a really big part of book one. Like, why were they separated? Why are they back here? Let's reunite and figure it out.
Oh, okay. Well, so tell us about the various settings of your stories. I mean, is it, set in modern time and then it goes to fantasy land, or how does that work?
Yeah, so what I did, and I'm just going to be, like I said, completely transparent. World building is not my forte. So, so what I did was I basically took like a modern Earth, just kind of flipped it a little bit. Like I'm like, all right, it's Earth, but there's humans and angels and demons, and they all have their territories within the Earth. So for humans, it's Terra Vista. For demons, it's the Void Heart. Think of them as like the North or the South. And then they have Arcanadia, which is the land of the angels. Um, what I try to focus on more, just because world building is such a challenge, is I will write something like Arcanadia or the Void Heart, or even structures like the Sin Mansion or Shadowfort or the Ethereal Valley. What I try to do is I focus on anchoring these fantastical settings within this modern Earth with deeply real character experiences. So, like the surroundings may be magical or otherworldly, but the relationships and emotions between the characters remain relatable and grounded. And so I try to stick to the characters more so than the world building. However, interestingly, I didn't approach my first draft with like this deliberate connection between building out my world and like human emotions. It was more about getting the story down. But during the editing process, I will tell you, I started to notice like these really interesting patterns emerge. So, for example, like the Ethereal Valley, what I do with it is I describe it as like vibrant and colorful, created by like the gods to entertain humans. It's meant to reflect what the gods think humans desire, right? Like bright
Mhm.
distraction. But it also reveals the gods' inability to truly understand human emotion and depth. And then I will have some pretty dark things happen in the Ethereal Valley, which would tend to be like a sharp contrast to its bright atmosphere. So I had a lot of fun, maybe not writing out the world because that's not my thing, but contrasting like what happens within these different structures and within these different territories being significantly different than what like the emotions are going into it. So like when you hear Void Heart, it doesn't make you think positive thoughts. However,
Yeah.
you might be in for a surprise in book two when you actually see what the Void Heart is and what it holds. And that's what I loved about kind of writing these, worlds, these structures into this modern Earth.
Oh, I get it. So there is this intrigue of the contrast. The reader might have it in their mind, but when they are introduced to it, it might be different.
Exactly.
Ooh, I like that. Well, speaking of your readers, who are your readers necessarily, and what is it you want them to take away from these books?
Oh, that's a great question. I would probably say 18 and up. I would say 18 and up. Whoever, can read it 18 and up. It is an adult fantasy, so there are some themes in it that I don't think are appropriate for a younger audience. Um, though who am I to judge at this point and in the world that we are in right now? So I'm not sure, but I would say if I had to go on record, I'd say 18 and up. And that's only because it explores themes of like redemption and sacrifice. And there's my book has some pretty dark themes in it, but there's always this sense of hope that I hope my readers take away from it. Like, yeah, things happen. We lose some people, some bad things happen to some good people. But at the end of the day, what I want the readers to take away from it is that these characters kept going. They kept continuing on the journey. They did not give up. And what I really try to stress is that these individuals are so ordinary, besides the power within them. These were just normal, everyday humans. And that's what I try to stress because I love it. And I'll tell you, I borrowed this theme from Lord of the Rings about like the most ordinary individual can do the most extraordinary things.
Mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
a very big pusher of that in life and in my writing, and so I really wanted to showcase that here, and I hope that's what they would take away from it the most.
Wonderful. Well, so how can your readers get in touch with you? Do you have a website for them to visit and sign up for a newsletter?
I do indeed. So it is jfmonroebookshelf.com. I have a blog on there. It is called Beyond the Veil. I try to update it monthly. So October is all set. I got to actually get on for November. I got to get that ready. Um, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok. It's very easy. It's at jf.monroe for both. And I'm also on Goodreads. I will say I have an unhealthy obsession with checking my Goodreads account to see how many people have added me to their TBR.
That's funny.
It is it's not really a way to like communicate with me, though I do think you can ask me questions on there. It's just something that I'm like, add me every time I have the chance. I will scream it to the rafters, like just add me to your TBR list so I can see my numbers go up because it makes me happy. Um, and that's where you can find me for now. I was debating a Twitter account, but I get overwhelmed easy, so I'm trying to take it slow.
I don't blame you at all. Yes, so listeners, head over to jfmonroebookshelf.com, read her blog. You can sign up for her newsletter, see more about her series. And can you share with us a little bit about book three?
Yes. So book three is where I'm working with an cover artist right now, the one that did my book one and book two. So that's pretty exciting. Um, I haven't, I've just started the editing process. The cover's going well. I'm getting everything together. The title, I will be completely honest, totally stumped on what the title is going to be, but what it is going to be about is the fallout from book two. So book
Okay.
one was a reunion, book two was the journey, and obviously big things happen in the journey. And book three is the fallout to the journey and how they kind of come back from it. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds great. And so the Legendary Guardians and Descent into the Void Heart, are those available on Amazon and wherever books are sold?
Amazon, yep, absolutely. You can also get it on Kindle Unlimited for free. And book one is on Audible. Book two is coming to Audible, fingers crossed, end of October, very beginning of November.
All right, that sounds great. Okay, listeners, you heard. Go pick up her books today over at Amazon and yeah, check out that audiobook. I bet you it's wonderful. Well, JF Monroe, this has been wonderful to get to know you. And I love that you write fantasy because that's my passion. I do suspense as well, but my first love is always fantasy. There's always a dragon out there that needs me to write its story. So, so we
I
are
love that.
kindred. Yeah, we're kindred spirits. And so, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much for having me.
That was great to listen to JF Monroe talk about her two books. This amazing trilogy. Book three is coming soon. So you heard. Go to jfmonroebookshelf.com to read more about her books, and sign up for her newsletter so you know when that book three comes out and its title, and you'll get to see the cover. How exciting. And I love that she writes fantasy too. That's my first love. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope that you've been encouraged by her journey, the fact that she dove in with both feet into fantasy. She realized that she needed to work at it and saw improvement in book two. And that's what you need to do as well. Work at it, stay with it, overcome obstacles, take courses, writing workshops, anything to help you learn the craft. And most importantly, keep coming back to a Writer's Day podcast because we always learn so much from authors. And I'll be posting more writing tips next year as well. So keep going on your writing journey because, like I always say, someone out there needs to read your story. Thanks for listening. Until next time, God bless.